What is up, harvesters? Welcome back to my subscribers, and if you're new here, welcome. My name is Ken. So today I want to talk to you guys about buck bedding. And so this is going to be a two-part video. The first part, we're going to talk about how to identify buck bedding, and the second part, we're going to talk about how to enhance that buck bedding to make it even more valuable for your property. So let's get into the first thing, and that's identifying that buck bedding. Now, this is a great time of year. It's the middle of March right now to get out and walk your property. You're not going to do anything to harm your property by walking all around it this time of year. This is a great time to go scout out your property. Great time to go shed hunting if you've lost your snow cover already. I know those of you living up in that snow belt between like Duluth and Buffalo, you guys are maybe still going to have snow on the ground come 4th of July the way it looks this year, but I know you guys just got hit again last week. So hopefully you'll eventually lose that snow. It'll be great for your deer herd to not be weighted down by that. But while you're out there, you can get out there to look for sheds, but also scout out your property. And so walk throughout the property, look for those sheds, but look for other things on the property, just deer sign in general. So just, this is just something I've been doing with my dad and my grandpa since I was a little kid. We'd go out and we'd walk the property and we'd look for deer sign. We'd look for deer trails, rubs, scrapes. Yes, sheds if it was around this time of year. And we're just out there looking for deer sign, enjoying the walk in the woods. But what you're looking for here specifically is some thicker areas that have a lot of rubs in them. So all deer are going to bed down in those thicker areas of the woods, but those bucks are obviously going to be rubbing their antlers on those smaller trees and shrubs in that area. So if you see a lot of rubs near each other, that is a very good sign that you are probably in a buck bedding area. So once you find that, you're also looking to see, is there like some thick cover in this area? Are those sight lines like really cut down on? You really shouldn't be able to see very far out of this area if this truly is a buck bedding area, because those bucks like to bed down in that very thick cover where they feel safe and secure. Now, when bucks bed down, they're looking for a couple of things. So first of all, that thick cover is going to double as browse for them. They definitely need browse in their bedding areas, but they may also get that browse from something like acorns off of oak trees as well. So just be looking for some sort of food source, some sort of like woody browse in that area as well. That's going to help you to identify that this is indeed a bedding area. The other thing we need to keep in mind though is that bucks sort of herd up with their own age class of other bucks. So this is that those mature bucks are usually going to stick together, those intermediate age bucks together, those younger bucks together, and then of course those does and fawns will be off on their own also. Now this is just how deer sort of walk together through the woods in the majority of the year. Now the rut, guys focus so much on the rut. This is not what they do during the rut, but this is what they do that other 95+% of the year. They will stay in those like bachelor groups, and typically within their own age area, within a year or two. The older bucks don't like hanging out with the younger bucks and so on. And the thing that happens is like as those older bucks get older, there become fewer and fewer of them because they've been harvested or got hit by a car or whatever. There just aren't as many old bucks in the woods as there are young bucks in the woods. It's just a numbers game there. So those older buck groups may only have one or two, maybe three big bucks in it, whereas those younger buck groups will have a lot more deer in them. You might see 5 young bucks running together, for example. So what we're looking for then is, where does this bedding area relate to a food source? So if you have food plots, that's great. We know where that food source is. If there's just ag in your area, we know where that is too. So we just kind of need to keep in mind where the food source is, because you guys should have pocketed bedding areas on your property. So even if those are man-made or they occur naturally, the first available bedding to those food sources is where those does and fawns are going to bed down. And then as you head off further away from those food sources is where you're going to then, in that next layer, that next compartment, is where you're going to get those young and intermediate age bucks to bed down. And then those mature bucks are going to take that further next layer of bedding, that quieter area in the woods, and that's where they're going to bed down. So you can't just like create buck bedding right next to food. It won't work. You can call it buck bedding, but it's going to be doe bedding, because the does and fawns are going to take that first available cover layer next to your food sources. So we're looking for this to be a very secluded part of your property. If you have like a layered type property where you maybe hunt the front or the edges of it, this is going to be the part of your property that's probably furthest away from any of your stand locations or any of your ingress or egress trails, because these bucks really do want that quietest part of the woods. So now that we've learned to identify where these bedding areas are occurring naturally, let's get into talking about how to enhance them. But first off, a few people have been asking how they can support the channel, and how you can do that is just watch my videos, like, subscribe, comment, all of the fun YouTube things. That's a great way to support the channel. But if you guys are looking to support the channel even more, I did start an account on buymeacoffee.com. I don't actually drink coffee though, so they have a feature where you can change it to buy me a beer. So I do have that link down in the comments if you want to support the channel additionally. But if you don't want to contribute money to the channel, that is okay. Just like, subscribe, comment, and continue watching the videos. That is a great way to continue supporting the channel. So now let's get into how we're going to enhance those bedding areas. But first we need to ask ourselves the question of if we should enhance them. Now, all naturally occurring bedding areas are not necessarily in the right spot that they should be on our property compared to where we're going to put all of our other habitat improvements. And so an example of this is on my Northwest Wisconsin property, there is an area that's right off the road. Now, there is a huge valley that drops off the road, so when the bucks are down in there, they actually are hidden from the road. But they'll bed down in that area. The problem is we don't necessarily want those bucks bedding right off the edge of the road, because it makes it difficult for us to access into the property, hunt the property, get to our other habitat improvements on the property. And the other issue is they only bed in that area during like the summer and then into the fall until all the leaves fall off. Once the leaves come off of the trees, they don't have as much cover there and they bed elsewhere. So what we've done over the years in that area is just let that high canopy remain, and that high canopy has slowly but surely choked off all of that undergrowth that they were using for browse in that bedding area, and they don't bed there as much anymore. And then definitely the other thing that we had to do was to create other bedding areas on the property so that they would bed in those areas. Even if they were bedded by the road in, say, summer, by the time it started moving into fall, into the hunting season, we got them to move back to that other bedding area, back further in the back corner of the property, because we don't want them right in our ingress egress areas of the property. There's a lot more commotion along that road during hunting season, obviously, hunters coming in and out of the area, us coming in and out of the area. And so it was just something that it was like, just because that was a naturally occurring bedding area, we didn't want to enhance that bedding area. We wanted to get them to use a different one instead. So in this situation, we can enhance current bedding areas, or we can create new ones based on what is ideal for our property and our other habitat improvements on our property. So again, before we do this, we're going to want to figure out what food sources these bedding areas are relating to. So we're talking food plots, we're talking egg, wherever they go, wherever they head off to just before dark, and what they feed on overnight. We want to figure out what these bedding areas are relating to in that next food source after they've been browsing in that bedding area all day long. And so because of that, then we can kind of start to put together these bedding areas. Like I said, we want to establish that compartmentalized bedding, or that layered bedding, meaning you're going to get your does in that first layer off of your food sources, those young intermediate age bucks next, those mature bucks even further back yet. And even those mature bucks, they're not going to like bed down right next to each other. Like if you guys ever see two beds next to each other, that is like 100% a doe and a fawn. When you see mature bucks in a bedding area, their beds may be 50 yards away from each other, but in that same like pocket of cover. And then they'll get up and they'll walk together, they'll feed together, they'll walk through the woods together, but they don't actually like bed right immediately next to each other when they're bedded down like the does and the fawns do. So these beds will be a lot more spread out if that's what you're out there looking for. And the other thing to keep in mind is these bedding areas can always be relating to multiple food sources too. So I always talk about compartmentalizing your habitat improvements on your property. I talk about having multiple food plots, multiple bedding areas, multiple travel corridors that kind of funnel those all together to make it easier for you to hunt them. But when you give everybody their kind of own corner of your property and then you hunt those funnels of movement between them, that's a great way to get more deer on your property and then still have a chance at seeing most of them on any given sit when you go out there. And then you can of course set up those stands for the right wind and thermals and all of that other fun stuff as well. So when we try to enhance the actual bedding area itself, I do what I like to call a top-down approach. So I like to look up at the highest canopy above this bedding area and start working my way down from there. So ideally, you do want to remove the high canopy and get it down on the ground. For one, when you drop those, make sure you're dropping them in a way that's going to act as side cover to cut down on those sight lines. But also you could hinge cut if these trees are hingeable. Now the last thing though is don't just cut down every tree in your canopy. If you have some nice big oak trees in there, in my case, that are dropping acorns into that bedding area, that may be that browse that they're relating to in that bedding area, and you do not want to get rid of that mature oak tree in that situation. So yes, open up that high canopy, but don't just clear cut all of it. Leave your better habitat trees in there and get rid of the other stuff so that they're not competing with them. And then in doing so, additional sunlight's going to get down to your forest floor where those deer are bedded down anyway. So that's what you're really trying to achieve here. Now, as we come down another layer, we get to that shrub layer. Now, usually in the habitat world, any shrub is a good shrub, but you guys might be dealing with invasive species. So in this situation, you have the opportunity to get rid of those invasive species so that now that you have more sunlight coming down, those native vegetation, plants, shrubs, whatever that you're trying to get growing in there, can sort of push out all of those invasives, and then that will establish as the primary growth in that bedding area. And you can continue to do this like outside of that bedding area, but keep in mind, like I always talk about compartmentalizing these bedding areas, you kind of want there to be like a little bit of an opening, let's say, between each one of these pockets that you're trying to establish as bedding areas or enhance the current bedding areas. And so what you can do in this situation is you can just continually drop a couple of those big mature canopy trees if that's what you're dealing with to get more sunlight down there. But when you're doing that, do not trap the deer in this area. You don't ever want the deer to feel trapped inside an area. You want them to be able to leave in any direction at any time if a predator were able to jump in there on them or whatever. But you do want to cut those trees and stuff down in a way that are going to cut down on those sight lines. So you're just going to have to kind of look at your own situation here. It's kind of hard to tell you guys something that's like a one size fits all, but like look at your topography, look at your sight lines. Drop those trees where they're going to be advantageous for you, but don't trap the deer in that area by like making a big circle of drop trees around it. They will not go in there. They don't like that. And then as we come all the way down to the forest floor, the last thing we can do is prescribed fire. Now, prescribed fire is not recommended on the majority of properties in these bedding areas. And the reason for that is if you do prescribed fire, they probably aren't going to bed there for a couple of years until that stuff does actually regenerate. Now, if we're talking about just an open field, no trees, no nothing, no shrubs, then yeah, prescribed fire can regenerate the area a lot faster. But when we're talking about this being like in the forest, on the forest floor, prescribed fire can be useful, but only if we're talking about you having a giant property and there are numerous of these buck bedding areas throughout the property, and then you just stagger every couple of years, you would do prescribed fire on one of those bedding areas each couple of years so that they would just be able to move to one of those other bedding areas. But if you're dealing with something like, say, maybe only 40 acres and you only have one of these buck bedding areas and then your doe bedding areas and whatever on your property, you probably don't want to be doing prescribed fire just because they're probably going to get pushed off to a different bedding area until you get that successional growth in that area that you burned. And that may be a couple years down the road, and most guys are looking to see success right away this season. So maybe you are playing the long game and you want to do that up front, but if you're looking to have success this season, I would not recommend doing prescribed fire. It's just a tool in the toolbox in case it does fit your situation. And so once you get these bedding areas established, you're definitely going to want to link them to other improvements on your property. I talk a ton about that in my other videos on my channel, so go check those out and you can see how this whole thing kind of comes together. But if you guys feel like you got some value out of this, go ahead, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you guys liked this video, YouTube thinks you're going to like this one too. So go see if they're right.